Hey everyone, I'm Scott. Thank you for joining me. Okay, let's make our old-fashioned eggnog. Now it starts with a cinnamon stick and a few cloves. Now the recipe calls for about 3 cloves. I have about 5 in here. I'm gonna go a little more clove heavy. If you don't like cloves at all, you can always omit it. Now, some ways to kind of spice this in your own direction. I love star anise. Star anise is a great one to add. Any of those kind of other spices you want to add, those really nice warm spices, cardamom, things like that, would be great to add in here and then steep in your milk. So we're going to make a mixture in the milk and we're going to extract some flavor from our spices and put them into the milk, and that's what's going to kind of give us a layer of, we got to work on the layers, making sure everything's really nice and good. So I'm going to go over to our pan. We're going to go over here, stovetop. What's that you're asking? Oh yes, my nice little nonstick kitchen table. Perfect for making old-fashioned eggnog, nice and small. 2 cups whole milk. I don't want to discourage you from ever doing but I will tell you in this recipe, fat-free milk and 2% milk, skim milk, just won't do it. It's fine, but the overall finishing texture will not be as rich. So I would say if you're going to do it, now's the time during the holidays. Just go big. We're going to use the whole milk. So the cinnamon stick, cloves go in there. Now we're going to scald this, which means, so scalding, boiling temperature, 212 degrees, depending on what altitude you're at. If you're like us, sea level, 212 is about right. So as soon as this scalds, I'm going to cut the heat because all we want to do is get the milk to a place where it's hot enough to where it'll kind of start extracting some of those flavors. It's going to heat the spices up. They're going to give off some of their fragrance, some of their flavor. One big tip, if I can give you any tips, of all my tips, don't ever leave milk or cream or any dairy sitting on a stove unattended while you walk off to go take the dogs for a walk or whatever you're doing, or do whatever it is you're going to do. Don't ever leave it on the stove, because what you'll come back to is a boiling, bubbling mess on your stovetop to clean up, and that's not good. That's not what we want. So I always kind of keep this over more of a moderate to medium to low heat. Let it come up to temp slowly, and then we'll kind of watch it. Now, in order to keep it from scalding, you're going to want to grab a spatula and just kind of every once in a while, and this is why I like to use the K&T non-stick pans, because it will help keep it from scalding. If you're using like a heavy bottom, stainless steel pan, nothing wrong with that, but you may have more of that kind of milk burning on there. So I like to use this little non-stick K&T, great. Real simple. All right, while that's heating, I'm actually going to turn up because anybody who watches the HB virtual classes knows I like to live a little dangerously when it comes to cooking in our test kitchen. So I'm going to turn the heat up past my recommended medium to medium low heat, a little bit hotter to get this to scald a little bit faster in the interest of saving time. So you come back over here with me. All right. So an old-fashioned eggnog, I could not tell you where eggnog was invented. I think you can Google it just as fast as probably I could, but I know that the way you make a good eggnog is we're going to kind of make a custard. And so just like any good custard, it starts with a yolk mixture. So we're going to use our egg yolks. No whites in this, just the yolks. Yolks have the lecithin that we're looking for. It's going to help thicken our eggnog. Plus, the yolks add so much richness to this that it's fantastic. We're not going to make a chiffon eggnog, which you would use your whites and foam, and it'd be probably more of an egg cream, but we're going to use the yolks because that's where all that great fat and flavor is. So I've got a mixture of brown sugar, equal amounts. 1/3 cup white, 1/3 cup brown sugar, and a teaspoon or a 1/4 teaspoon of some salt in there. Again, we have to have the salt to balance all the sweetness, right? We're going to end up having all this great cinnamon and clove flavor that's all kind of been infused into our milk mixture. We're going to add a little half and half and heavy cream to kind of not thin it out. That's definitely not thinning it out. To kind of round it out at the end. And so we want that little bit of salt because that way you can really get all those flavors kind of hitting your palate at one time. And that's what makes it so good. And honestly, when you make this recipe, and I'm going to show you how you know your custard is basically done, because if we went a little further, you could make this into like a creme anglaise. If we were to cook it, add a little cornstarch, you could do that, add a little butter to it. But we're just trying to make this kind of a sauce consistency. And there's a word called nape, which is a French word that basically means it'll stick to the back of your spoon. The sauce will kind of hold, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like so you know what to look for when you're making it at home. So now you're going to whisk this. I probably could have asked for a bigger bowl and a bigger whisk, but I figured I like to torture myself, especially during the holidays. So you're going to whisk this until you get some beautiful ribbons. So now I'm going to show you what is the ribbon stage, or what does ribboning mean. Your yolks, because of the brown sugar, it's obviously going to have a little tint toward the yellow or more of a brownish color, but eventually, yes. Did you see that? Did you catch it on film? Yes. So I told you that I like to live a little dangerously, and I left my milk to scald. However, because thanks to the saving warning of my boy Rob, he was like, "Psst, your cream." It's scalded. Now the flavor I get off of this is, because we took it up so high, it's got a great smell. I'm smelling the cloves. I get that beautiful cinnamon. Let this sit. It's scalded. It's hot. And look at that. Very minimal damage. Rob, way to go. Look at this. A little bit of white ring, not too much down there. But I'm telling you, that's what happened. Just when you're sitting there thinking you're in your zone, you're like, wait a minute, did I forget something? Mountain of milk all over the stove. All right, I'm going to whisk this again. Again, it did not burn on the bottom of the pan because we're K&T nonstick pan. There you go. All right, that's going to sit and cool off for a second. And we're going to temper that into our egg yolk mixture. Now, the egg yolk mixture will eventually, once it's tempered, go back to the milk mixture. We're going to bring it all up to kind of a simmer. We're going to slowly cook it for about 5 to 7 minutes, or until we get to that, I said, that nape stage. Now, the way to help yourself, or to shortcut here, I will tell you, as with any kind of baking you're going to do, let your eggs sit at room temperature before you start. So your egg yolk's sitting at room temperature for a little while. That way it takes the chill off them. It'll temper a lot easier, and it won't have the tendency to kind of scramble and get scrambled eggs. If you take your eggs fresh out of the fridge and you're like, I really want to make eggnog, I don't want to wait 30 minutes for these eggs to come into temp, I've got a tip for you. You ready for this? All right, so if you're going to make anything, you're trying to make a cake or a cookies or whatever, and you're like, I don't want to use cold eggs, because then you got room temperature butter, cold eggs, everything seizes. The best tip is take your hot tap water, regular hot tap water, as hot as it'll go. Now, if you live in a super house with super appliances and super hot everything, like a brand new, thermal, rectangular, super fancy plasma, hot water heater, then maybe go a little under your hottest temperature. But for the rest of us, you just go to the hottest temperature your water will go, which will be around that probably 130, 140, 150 degrees. And then throw your cold eggs in the water and let them sit for about 10 minutes. It'll kind of slowly take the chill off, and that way you can use them a little bit faster. So that's my tip. Again, super thermal, rectangular, super hot water heater. Just be careful. Do it a little less than you would normally would. I don't know, does anybody take showers at 212 degrees? I mean, that's boiling water. It'll cook your skin. I can't imagine you would, but I mean, I'm sure there's hot water heaters that'll get you there. Talk about, you're off track. We start talking about hot water heaters when you're making eggnog. All right, you see this? Check this out. This is our ribbon stage here. All right, so you see how it's gone nice and pale? And if you can see that in the overhead cam here. I'm going to give it a couple more whisks. See, normally whisking is fairly fluid. It's supposed to be very kind of easy and light. And normally you just kind of move your wrist so as not to hurt. But when you have a small baby whisk like this, it takes a little more elbow grease. I told you, I like to torture myself a little bit on holidays. All right, so you see this. Now watch, I'm going to pull this up. So you see how I've got this, see how you kind of see the ribbons on there? That is exactly where we need to be. Now we're going to temper this. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to slowly, because I was to temper my eggs. Now, check this out. If you're saying, gee, if you just did what I just did, and you're like, how do I whisk and pour at the same time? Because this poses a problem, right? Watch this. If I'm whisking, that's not very stable, not very smart either, right? If I'm doing this, I got hot cream, counter, kids are running around, never good, right? So if you find yourself all alone and you're making this, don't worry. Wet a towel, just like this. I'm going to wet a towel. I'm going to put it in a smaller pot that'll fit in my bowl, and we're going to solve the problem right here. Tips and tricks, they just keep coming. Rob, I want you to know how much I appreciate you keeping me from completely scalding all the milk on the stove. A little pot, see what I just did? A little pot like this. Also, weird that I just happened to grab the same, it's a K&T pan. I mean, it's just telling you something for the holidays. That's what you need to be going out and buying all your friends. So I now have a little more stable place to put this, right? It's nice and thick, but that way it's not going to completely weeble and wobble all over the place. So a little cream goes in. Again, I tempered my eggs a little bit. So I'm going to be a little more generous with it, but all of a sudden you're going to see it kind of smooth out. If you temper this too fast, let's say you do that thing where you're like, hey, I was in a hurry, I put my cold yolks in here, I whisked it all together, my cream was really, really hot, I put it in there and I scrambled the eggs, don't worry. It's really easy to just start over to this point. It hasn't taken very long. And if you accidentally throw some cloves in there, don't worry about it. All I'm looking to do is just get this to the right temperature, and then we're going to pour it in here. And then we're going to continue to whisk it. Now you can take the cloves and cinnamon out at this point if you wanted to. I'm going to leave them in though, and then I'm going to strain the whole mixture in a second into a bigger bowl once I kind of cook it down. All right, that is basically good to go. How do you know if it's something is temped the right way? Use the top of your finger like I just did. And if it feels warm, you're good to go. If it still feels a little bit cool, use a little bit more. But this is good to go. So I'm going to go right back into my vessel here. All that good flavor. I wish you could smell this. You'll know soon enough when you start making this because your home is going to smell like a holiday ad. It'll have that clove, cinnamon kind of thing going on here. All right, I'm going to switch over. I've done my whisk to death. Switch over to my spatula here. I'm going to take it the rest of the way with the spatula. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. What a great trick, huh? Little pot, little pan, I'm telling you. You just go to your local H-E-B GM section. You can find so many great things that make life so much easier on you. All right, this is going to get whisked for a little bit. Again, same rules apply. Rob, don't let me down. You see it bubbling. I'm going to kind of keep a better eye on it here. But at this point, I am going to grab my heavy cream, and I'm going to have my vanilla standing by. So I've got a cup of heavy cream and a cup of half and half. They're mixed in this vessel. They're ready to go. Now, why would I not add the vanilla to this? You can, however, I find that I don't want to cook the vanilla too much. I want to warm it because I want the full impact of the vanilla to be in there so that all of it stays nice and floral. I want that vanilla to stay nice and floral because I feel like vanilla has that kind of tendency where you can kind of overcook it. And it kind of has that like, you know, more cookie dough kind of like flavor, which is not a bad thing, more caramelized. Or you can save it to the end and kind of add the vanilla in there, and it just does a little better job here. All right, so this is going to get just whisked a little bit. You'll notice it starts to thicken up pretty quick. And again, I have a 35,000 BTU stove, so it tends to cook things a little bit quicker. So you can see here, getting a little of that skin forming, and that's all right. I'm going to whisk it all together. I'm going to temper it with my cold half and half and heavy cream here. All right. This is going to keep going. I'm going to go back to my whisk. I lied. Going back to the whisk. And this is good. Because my stove is so hot, that's really all you need to do. Now I'm going to show you what nape means. We talked about it's this term where it'll basically coat the back of a spoon really, really nicely. So you dip it in, you take it out, and you'll be able to take your finger straight down. So the sauce holds. See that? You're good. This goes off the heat. That's all we need to do. Off the heat, and we're going to temper it into a container. We're going to add the half and half. We're going to strain this, like I said earlier, we're going to strain this out so we get rid of the cloves and the cinnamon. But all that flavor, so all this, all I can smell is like the cloves, the cinnamon, all that stuff is dynamite in this right now. It's nice, beautiful. It's got that nice eggnog kind of color. And we're going to hit it with the, now why not more milk? I'll tell you why. Because milk is great, but half and half milk, half cream, and then whole heavy cream creates that mouthfeel that when you add your bourbon or your whatever, or the great thing is this is also completely alcohol-free for the kids, that when you add a little twist of orange peel to it or something like that, it can transform into more like a creamsicle, like, which is really good, but like it just gives it that flavor of this rich mouthfeel. That's exactly what you want. You don't want kind of like thin. I feel like I've seen fat-free eggnog, and I'm like, why? Why even have, like, that's the whole point, right? The holidays, the point is, do something good for yourself, right? Enjoy, indulge a little bit. All right, from the stove, we've let our custard cool off a little bit. Again, it was just, you can see it still moves. It's not like a pastry cream. It's just cooked down enough. The eggs have slightly thickened. We're going to strain this mixture out. Like we talked about earlier, again, we want to make sure, look at how thick and luxurious that is. Get out. Come on. All right, a little bit of that shake. Get all that beautiful custard out of there. And again, we just Preserving those cloves and our cinnamon stick. Those go over to the side here. And now we're left with the heavy cream and half. Again, no, not your fat-free, not your skim. The heavy cream and the half get whisked into this, and now off the heat, once everything's cooled, I'm at about a tablespoon of, I would add the entire bottle of this, but I know not everybody's the biggest fan. That's about a tablespoon of the vanilla bean paste, and now in this, you're gonna get those beautiful flecks of all that great vanilla bean in here. And then you just need something nice, a nice little vessel to kind of dress it all up with. Now, whether you want to do like, I don't know if you can see that, Rob. What? Look at all those vanilla beans. They're just floating in there. Little flecks of flavor. Man, I'm telling you, this is like pure gold right here. All right, I've got this great little pitcher I found at HEB. It's great. Also have these little mason jar mugs. So what we can do here is we can go, we did not rehearse this, so if it fails, that's on me. Right into a little guy like this, and then the rest of it right in here in my mug. Come on. Waste not, want not, right? All right. Now, the only thing it needs, a little bit of, besides like a big tower of whipped cream up to about here for me, a little bit of fresh nutmeg. Now, for the kids, if you're not a big nutmeg fan, I love to do the exact same peeler, a little bit of chocolate, a little dark chocolate, just grate it over the top to kind of fall on there on top. It's kind of like a little pillow of chocolate, also delicious. But that is it. Refrigerate this until it's nice and cold, and then add your favorite beverage to it, whether it's a bourbon or for the kids, a little orange peel, a little creamsicles, so many ways to do it. So easy to do. We are here for you all the holidays. Again, everything you need at HEB, just go check it out. If you like this and you want to subscribe to more content, simply subscribe below, and you can check out more of our great holiday content. Until the next time, we will see you. Have the happiest of holidays. We'll see you next time.